Hello, and welcome to Habitat for Humanity's virtual Hope Builders Luncheon presented by Banner Bank. My name is Aaron Luna. I'm a board member for Habitat for Humanity-Spokane. I'm also the evening anchor at KXLY 4 News Now. Thank you so much for being here. Throughout the past year, as everyone knows, coronavirus has forever changed how we gather together. This virus has shown us that everyone needs and everyone deserves a decent place to live, and how critical home is for all of us. For 34 years, Habitat for Humanity-Spokane has been addressing one of today's most urgent issues, and that's lack of housing. With your help, families in partnership can stand on their own, achieving stability and self-reliance of home ownership. Affordable housing and home ownership is out of reach for too many in our community. Today, we will discuss the barriers to accessing affordable housing and how Habitat is a solution in creating communities of opportunity, generating wealth and upward mobility for our neighbors in need. Spokane is a generous community. I think we all know that. And I believe together we can build the strength, stability, and self-reliance to lift our neighbors up and out of the trenches. With your support, we can't do this without you. Habitat for Humanity can continue to build affordable homes, community, and hope. We must continue to be a beacon of hope, and we also have to build back. This year's event is presented by Banner Bank and sponsored by Columbia Bank, Spokane Hardware Supply, Integris Architecture, and Avista. Habitat also receives significant media support from the Pacific Northwest Inlander and iHeartRadio. Thank you so much for what you do. I would also like to thank all of our virtual hosts who have shared their passion for Habitat with their networks. Thank you for your time, your talent, your treasure, and commitment to this powerful work. And just announced last week, this is pretty big, Banner Bank will be matching all donations up to $17,000. That's huge. That means all of your donations today will go even further to building safe, decent, and affordable homes in Spokane. So please give generously. It's become a tradition at our in-person lunches to have airmen sing the national anthem before our events. Crews from Fairchild Air Force Base volunteer at a Habitat job site at least twice a month, sometimes more, and their dedication to building affordable homes in Spokane is a blessing to the community. Please rise as Master Sergeant Melissa Bocardo sings the national anthem for us this year.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
I'm very honored to be serving my 4th year as the MC for this luncheon, Habitat's largest fundraising event and annual celebration of community partners who make safe, decent, and affordable homeownership a priority. This event was established to increase awareness of the housing issues faced by low to moderate income families in our community, and also talk about how Habitat is a direct solution to many of these issues. All proceeds from this fundraiser directly benefit Habitat-Spokane's homeownership services. That includes financial education, home construction, counseling, and legal services for individuals looking for an opportunity for a better life. To kick this off, it is my pleasure to introduce Deacon Martinez to lead us in prayer.
Hello, my name is Deacon Chalo Martinez. We're here to celebrate the renewal of Habitat for Humanity after a pause because of the pandemic. We are here to show our gratitude to our Lord for the blessings upon those who are participating and have participated in the program, receiving affordable housing, which is so important in matters of mind, spirit, and body. and we are most grateful to the Lord. So we will do a prayer for thanksgiving and continued blessings. Divino Padre, la celebración de la resurrección de tu Hijo en esta nueva estación de primavera ilumina nuestras vidas y revitaliza nuestra esperanza. Tu preocupación paternal es obvia en los progresos realizados contra la pandemia. Esto hace posible que Habitat for Humanity reanude su misión de resucitar a familias mientras construyen y toman posesión de sus nuevos hogares. Te damos gracias por tu inmensa bondad y te pedimos que bendigas a esas familias y a nuestros benefactores con la misma paz con la que saludabas a tus discípulos. Amen. Divine Father, the celebration of your Son's resurrection in this new spring season brightens our lives and reinvigorates our hope. Your fatherly concern is obvious in the progress made against the pandemic. This makes it possible for Habitat for Humanity to resume its mission of raising families to new life as they complete and take possession of their own homes. Our hearts are grateful to you for these and many other countless gifts. We ask you to bless these families and our benefactors with the same peace with which you greeted your disciples. Amen.
Thank you, Deacon Martinez. Last year, we heard from Habitat kids whose home is a strong foundation to study and dream. This year, our speakers will take a break halfway through so we can hear from a single dad who is currently in the program completing his partnership and looking forward to providing a safe, stable home for his 3-year-old daughter. We're living in a time where overcrowded, substandard, and high-cost housing is increasing. The lack of adequate housing has a particularly adverse effect on the academic outcomes of children and communities of color. Your efforts supporting Habitat will help to build a decent place to live. And an affordable mortgage creates a situation where homeowners can save more, invest in education, pursue opportunities, and have more financial stability. Here to talk more about these issues and how we can make a difference is Habitat-Spokane CEO MSgt Gerardo, who is joined by Councilwoman Betsy Wilkerson, Dr. Vange Ocasio Hochheimer, Associate Professor of Economics at Whitworth University, and the President and CEO of Grandeur Analytics, and Ezra Eckhardt, Chief Executive Officer of STCU.
Welcome to Habitat for Humanity's Hope Builders Luncheon. I'm MSgt Gerardo, CEO of Habitat for Humanity-Spokane. Habitat for Humanity is a nonprofit organization that helps families build and improve places to call home. We believe affordable housing plays a critical role in strong and stable communities. Today, I am joined by 3 incredible leaders, Councilwoman Betsy Wilkerson, Dr. Vange Ocasio Hochheimer, and Ezra Eckhardt, who have generously agreed to share their thoughts on homeownership and how it creates stability in our beloved Spokane community. While our time is short, we have some questions prepared by Habitat supporters to assist in driving this conversation. If we have time towards the end of our session, we can share some of the questions from the chat. So with that, will each of you please provide a brief hello and introduction to our audience and share why you feel affordable homeownership is critical to our community? And why don't we start with you, Councilwoman?
Thank you, and thank you for having me here today to be part of this conversation. A little bit about me. I'm a homeowner, first of all, in East Central, a small business owner, and serving currently on City Council. A longtime resident of Spokane and have seen Spokane evolve. But the one thing I do know is for our community and city to thrive, people have to have a safe place to be, a safe place to live. And home ownership is key to that growth. So I'm excited to be part of this conversation today, but I think that's where we have to begin, is a roof over their heads.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Now let's go to you, Dr. Vange.
Oh, hi. Thank you so much for having invited me to be part of this incredible conversation. I'm an associate professor at Whitworth of Economics at Whitworth University, and I'm also CEO of Grandfair Analytics, which is a research firm. And I also serve on the housing board of the Catholic Charities of Eastern Washington in Spokane. And so in my research, I look at housing as a social determinant of health. When you look at multidimensional poverty, you see that when you have a lack of affordable housing, a host of other problems will materialize. So if you look at the work of the World Health Organization and even HUD, they acknowledge that housing is a human right, and they also acknowledge that a lack of affordable housing or a lack of housing in general would lead to illnesses. And so that is sort of how I approach this housing crisis that we're facing right now. And so I look at it as an essential necessity for human dignity.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Ezra.
Hi, Ezra Eckhardt, and I'm on the team over at STCU, and I've been here for just over 3 years, but born and raised in Spokane. My family's generation from Spokane, so I've seen the community grow and evolve, and my grandparents went to Rogers back when it was one of the powerhouse schools here in Eastern Washington, and I grew up in the West Central neighborhood. And I know that housing is a critical part of the infrastructure of our society. And I'm very interested in being a part of the solution in helping create the foundation that's going to allow Spokane to thrive into the future. And that means finding the right way to open up doors for more homeowners and creating the right path to help our community continue to thrive into the future.
Wonderful. Thank you. So as housing instability has been a community problem for many years, and in the face of this pandemic, housing instability has often meant a greater risk of exposure to a deadly virus. Having affordable housing becomes a matter of life and death. We have also witnessed an increased awareness of the disparities our neighbors are experiencing and a lack of access to those communities of opportunity. So we're going to kind of work in the same pattern. What are some of the complexities you see we are facing? And do you have any examples or personal anecdotes that you might want to share? And Councilwoman, we'll start with you again.
Thank you. So from my perspective and where I sit in government, a lot of it has been around zoning and the complexities of that. And as our neighborhoods have changed over the years, we have not kept pace with how communities are growing and thriving. You know, the challenge I see is how we really work together with developers and neighborhoods to help understand what we are truly facing. And we know many folks love their neighborhood. I love my neighborhood. But you know, there is enough room at the table for everybody to have a home. And also this last year has shown us we cannot operate in a silo type mentality. And this housing crisis that we face cannot be solved by one entity. It just can't be developers, and it just can't be the finance community. It is so big, government has to truly step in and play its part in how we attack this. So council did approve 1590. Those are a designated tax for housing to build that, to start filling that gap. Is it a solution for everything? No, but we know it is a start to get us on that path. So again, as we look at zoning, how we get past some of the barriers and the cost of the infrastructure for housing from a city's perspective, how we can play that role, I think that is important. I do want to comment, though, I have to thank Habitat. When I did a little homework, they have built over 50 homes in the East Central neighborhood, and I don't think that's known. So a big shout out and thank you for that. And in this hot market, again, we have got to do things differently. And we can do things differently, and it's required that we do things differently, or we will not have the outcome that we are all seeking today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Vange?
Yes. Yes. Hi. I agree with Betsy that we need to do things differently when you look at the impact of lack of affordable housing. So if you look at the data, I'm an economist, so I look at the data first to point at the facts and the reality of the situation. So when you look at the data, you look at this first-time home buyer affordability index, it is going down. So currently, first-time homeowners can only afford about 80% of a median, price mortgage. And so that is going to be a problem. So that will bounce them into the rental market. And as you know, the rental market is also suffering from a lack of rental units. And so that will lead to a host of social issues. So connecting this to the pandemic, the data shows that a lot of the infections will happen on extended families living together in multi household units. And so when you also look at the impact of the pandemic, so who's going to be likely to be living in extended family situations, that's going to be the youth and racial minorities. So the impact of the pandemic, the impact of a lack of affordable housing will have a differential. Well, the impact is different, right? For certain minority groups, for the youth, when you look at the data, also, we have had an increase in youth homelessness. It's really astonishing when you look at the data. In fact, I could even point, so for example, about 37% of students in Spokane are homeless. That is outrageously high. And then when you keep looking at the data, so the state, when you look at other data, for example, on schooling, you see that homeless children or homeless students tend to perform poorly in school. The graduation rates declines. And so this is when I look at housing as a social determinant of health, I think that it is essential that we address the housing crisis, because if we don't do that, homelessness is going to increase and poverty is going to deepen. And so if we want to tackle, I remember recently, homelessness, as you know, was a hot topic, and it still is here in Spokane. And we tend to blame the homeless individuals for being homeless. And I think that's it's an incorrect approach to address the issue. I think we have a housing problem, and I think we do need to come to the table together to solve it.
Wow. Very, very incredible. Ezra.
Right. I think tying back to Vange's point, a home is a safe place. And if we think about the situation of the pandemic, where are children supposed to go to school? How are families supposed to stay isolated if they don't have a home that is a safe place that provides them security for their family? And, it's an acute problem right now relative to the pandemic, but it is a chronic, systematic problem in our society overall. And if we think about our ability to elevate people in society, giving them the foundation of safety and security in a home is one of the critical things that we can provide as a community together. And so I think we've seen some of those acute impacts because we've been paying attention through the pandemic, but they're problems that have existed. And, this is where I think, Habitat is a big part of that solution. And we're here today to talk about, how we can all support Habitat. So we want to say thanks to Michelle and her team for getting us on the topic at hand.
Thank you. All right. Habitat has been bringing affordable homeownership opportunities to Spokane County for nearly 35 years, with 340 individuals and families permanently achieving affordable homeownership. Yet there continues to be barriers in accessing a safe and decent and affordable home. What are the obstacles to housing stability that need to be removed to bring equitable access to all community members? And how can we get to a place of acting on those solutions? Now, I know this could be a very long list, but what are the ones that really kind of speak to you and what you see in your current professions?
So, Michelle, thank you for asking me to go first. I just had to back up for 1 second. I'm going to answer that question about how important a home is. So just quickly, I was homeless, me and my 2 kids. And I got into a home through a government subsidized program. And that's why I circle back around to why government has a role to play. For those who are old enough, it was a HUD program, so 235 home ownership, and it was like $1,000 down to get in. So me owning a home changed the trajectory of not only my life, but my 2 children's lives going forward, and feeling part of and anchored to a community. I spoke with the principal over at Sheridan Elementary, and he goes, Betsy, our kids need homes. So affordability is definitely one. Down payment assistance is another. And again, we are in a hot market. And really, I will, again, take some ownership for just government, just leaving it to the private sector to think they were going to solve all these ills, knowing that, this is our community and we are shepherds of it also in that whole partnership. So that's where I would start. It is going to take capital and education for a lot of folks, because to get them in a home where they've never owned one, we have to also, for some, have some additional support to help walk them through that. I had parents who told me, pay your water bill on time. You just can't skip that one. Or if something breaks, or the many other things that go. So again, it is complex, but we have the resources, I believe, to meet the problem head on.
Wonderful, thank you. Vange.
Yes, thank you. So Betsy, I can relate to your personal story, because I too was homeless at the age of 14. So I was a youth homeless person. And if it wasn't because I did have housing in a loving home before, so from the age of, from up to the age of 12, I grew up with my grandparents who provided a home and love and, support. Then I went to live, so that was in Puerto Rico. And then I moved back to the United States and went to live with my single mother of 8. And we were all crammed up in a very tiny apartment. Then we got evicted. And at 14, I became homeless. And if it wasn't because I had that solid environment as a child, I wouldn't have been able to get through that and keep moving on. So I got a job at 14 and rented a little room in Queens, in New York City. And here I am, a PhD in economics today. So this is where my sensibility for the social impact of homelessness. Some people look at homelessness as people think that homelessness starts with drug use and that it starts with risky behavior. If you look at the data, it's the other way around. When you're homeless and you don't have a safe place to be, a safe place to cook a meal, you become desolate. You become, you self-medicate. You experience food insecurity. And so the lack of a house, the lack of a home results in a greater social problem. And so sometimes people look at someone on the street and they say, that person is a drug addict and that person, why should we help them get a house? So if you look at the trajectory of these social issues, homelessness is key. And homelessness happens first, because if you look at the data for youth homelessness, these are kids. And actually the greatest homelessness right now, if you look at the Spokane School District and Meade School District, is happening at the elementary school level, K through 5. And so they're not drug addicts. They don't engage in risky behaviors. These are children. At 14, I was not a drug addict. I was a Christian girl who went to church growing up, and I had no I was not a drug user. So anyways, in terms of the solution, I think the ecosystem of the housing market is multidimensional. So I think, as Betsy and Ezra mentioned, we need to tackle this issue as a collective issue. So, for example, to deal with the lack of affordable housing, or for first-time home buyers and low-income families, I think we need to have subsidized housing. I think that having subsidized housing will help those low-income individuals get into a home. And I think that's where Habitat comes into play in terms of assisting those low-income individuals get into a home. The second approach, I think that we need to have a regulatory framework that is going to support construction of new housing, both single family homes as well as density housing. And so the regulatory framework needs to support the new construction of homes. And then lastly, I think we need to make sure that we have one, rental protection for tenants, as well as incentives for investors to create more housing. So it is a multidimensional approach to tackle this issue.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you both for sharing your personal journeys. Ezra, do you want to share anything?
Sure. I was going to tie back to Betsy's point around one of the biggest obstacles that we can remove is access to knowledge and resources. And there are a number of programs that people aren't just going to know top of mind. We have to open up the communication and create the access points and make it easy for people to tie into those. So I think about down payment assistance through the Federal Home Loan Bank, various different HUD programs that are accessible, state-sponsored support, city-sponsored support, and making it easy for people to navigate that path when they don't have access to the information. And that's where I think it's more than just having the houses available, right? We have to put a lot of effort, as Vange was talking about, to creating the inventory and creating more product in the marketplace. But we also have to line people up with access to information and then help them move along that path. And when we do and create that path and help people start to navigate through it, they're going to open up their own doors. And again, providing that safe environment where people can thrive, where they can benefit from the homeowner appreciation over the course of time. That's where we're going to see long-term stability in our society. And it really starts with that foundation of homeownership.
And Ezra, I thank you for that. And I want to comment that we have to stop penalizing people for being homeless.
Mm-hmm.
Many, through no fault of their own, life just happened, and they did not have the resources to change direction. But the education piece is critical. I have an employee who wanted to buy a home, and it was like, where do I start? And then I saw something about a first-time home buyers program that he could go through the whole education, how to get his credit restored, and all those steps where he could be ready, as you said, in the pipeline when opportunity presents itself. But we have to allow people to dream. And now we have to have a place when they've gone through all this, there's actually a home at the end of the process. So as you've talked to realtors, homes that are affordable are not available. I think the entry-level home, the cheapest I've been looking the last week, the cheapest home I saw was $239, and it was a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. And I thought, wow, even if you are working above minimum wage, you could not afford that home. And so we can do better and bring resources to bear. And again, the political will and the community will is now there.
Very inspiring words. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit so we can take a brief break. So today's Hope Builders Luncheon is about building hope for a better future. But we want to make sure that we have some time to hear from a future Habitat homeowner. So we're going to listen to Thomas's story on his journey through the homeownership process with Habitat and what he hopes a safe and decent home can be and mean for him and his daughter.
Well, thank you so much for being with us here today, Thomas. I know you're a busy guy. You're a single dad. You're working a full-time job. You're working on your sweat equity. And I got to say, that's an inspiration to a lot of people to see you get all that done with such limited time.
And
You
this
want to
is
say
my
hi?
little girl.
Hi.
Can you say hi?
What's your name?
Tell me what your name is. Her name is Allison.
Allison, how old are you?
Can you tell me how old you are? 3. Good
3. All right.
job. Yep, 3.
So tell me a little bit about the home ownership program. What is it? What has it been like? And I know they offer financial education courses for free. Have you taken any of those? What do you think of those so far?
I've taken a couple courses. They've really helped out with exactly what I need as far as what it takes to own a house, what information I'll definitely need as far as just escrow, taxes, stuff like that. And also just kind of how, buying and selling a house works as well.
Thomas, that has to, right there, Allison has to be a huge inspiration for why you kind of applied to a Habitat for Humanity home in Spokane. Tell us a little bit about that.
So, yes, she's definitely an inspiration to why I wanted to do this. Okay, here. All right, go play. Sorry. I have a 3-year-old daughter who is a big part of my life and everything. I just really wanted to have our own place for her to grow up and play and stuff like that. Just because I had a lot of stuff happen the last couple of years, obviously, COVID hit, so that kind of put a damper on that. But I also got divorced back in 2018, and it was just kind of a hard time. And I moved in with my mom to help with that and everything, and just owning a house and renting an apartment for the same amount didn't seem really a good idea. So that's one of the reasons why I did start my application process for Habitat, was just wanting to own my own home, my daughter having a place for her to live and stay, and ultimately be proud of. I wanted my children to grow up in a house.
It's a good goal to have. I hear you have a great support system here locally in Spokane. Can you tell me a little bit about your family?
So I do have a great support system here. My family definitely helps me out a lot. My mom will help on days that I have to go do Habitat. On like weekends, she'll watch her. My brother will definitely help too whenever he can.
That's great to hear. What's one of the first things you're going to do when you move into your new Habitat home?
Painting my daughter's room, her favorite color, whatever that may be at that point. Whether it be pink, purple, yellow, whatever color she would want it to be, is one of my things that I'm looking forward to the most.
You might have to paint it a couple different colors over the years.
Yeah, definitely.
So today we have a lot of donors, we have a lot of sponsors, a lot of volunteers are watching, and every one of these people have given to Habitat in some way. Habitat Homes, your home, is possible because the amazing community that is surrounding us right now. Do you have anything you want to say to them?
Everybody who has any sort of hand in this organization, I just want to say thank you very much, because it helps people like me who may not be able to afford a home in a more traditional setting achieve that goal. And just as well, you give so much of a future to those people. I'm just so very thankful, really. I don't really have words to explain how thankful I am for the program of Habitat. And I just want to say thank you very much for all that.
Thomas, that's great. And we're really just proud of you for doing all this hard work to make that a reality of yours. So congratulations.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas and Aaron. So now we're going to switch gears again and talk about some solutions, some actions, and some next steps. So Habitat's homeownership program is a partnership with future homeowners like Thomas and with the Spokane community. Habitat walks alongside future homeowners as they learn to become successful home buyers and owners while helping to build their own homes and their neighbors' homes. Habitat homes are built in large part by the thousands of community volunteers we see annually, and donor funds go toward keeping the mortgage affordable. What we do is not possible without working together in partnership with so many. So, Betsy, how do you see community members, businesses, groups, individuals being part of the solution? And in what ways can we bring more housing stability to Spokane?
Well, I think the first thing really we have to look at our attitude towards housing and just start to reimagine what housing looks like. The picket fence and, the backyard, the big backyard, maybe it's a small cottage house now. Or maybe we look at how we fund condos, or the city's looking at what they call accessory dwelling units, a small house or a grandparent's house in the backyard, if space allows that. So I think that's the first step, that we have to really educate our entire community around what housing can look like. The second piece is, and this is government, where we are looking at creating a land bank, because we know land is one of the biggest, or lack thereof, commodity available now for housing. So if the city could play a role in creating a land bank and some of the empty spaces that we have throughout the city and work on infill, because if we fill those vacant lots with homes for families, we know that becomes a more vibrant neighborhood for everyone around them in that sense and pride of home ownership. So a big shout out to Thomas. You go get him. I'm just proud to hear your story also. So those are two things. And honestly, we always circle back around to education. That is one benchmark we can achieve in this community, is really putting a face on the housing crisis, and not from the panic end, but from the solution end. So the land bank idea, I think we can really stand that up in the city, and that could play a big role in how Habitat could move forward in building more homes for families.
Wonderful. Thank you. Vange, you have anything to add?
Yes, I echo what Betsy just said, and I think that I know that Spokane is going to be engaging in a economic development strategic plan, and I think that housing needs to be a major part of that strategic plan to plan for the next 10 years or so and beyond. And so I think it will be beneficial to bring different constituents to the table and talk about how we can improve housing in the region, and how housing is connected to the other problems that we're facing in the region. And so graduation rates, homelessness, suicide rates actually have been going up as well. And so all of these social issues will be very strongly connected, at least that's what the data shows, to homelessness.
Thank you. Ezra, you have anything to add?
Yeah, when I think about what some of the solutions that can be brought to the table, two phrases pop into my mind. The first one is, it takes a village. And we've heard that it's not a singular component. It's not Habitat all by itself. It's not a builder who decides they're going to construct affordable housing. There has to be a coordinated solution. And I really appreciate Betsy's comments about government playing a role in that. And there has to be central coordination, central organization. And if we here in Eastern Washington and in Spokane want to create a solution that works for our community, we need the government to be a central part of that. And then we need to organize the rest of the players so that they can support that activity over time. And so when I think about how that all comes together, then the components can work pretty easily. And, finding the right real estate, lining up the right developers and builders, creating accessibility to financing, lining up the knowledge base for individual homeowners so that they can transition through and be successful over the course of time, and just organizing all of the resources that we have as a community and acting in a unified way to really tackle this problem. And if we do that, I know we're going to be successful, because that's one of the hallmarks of Spokane. When we organize ourselves as a community, we can knock problems out. And I'm confident as we look out on the horizon for the next 3, 4, 5 years, if we can use the stepping stones that we've learned in the last 12 months, get ourselves organized, we can make substantial progress on this.
Michelle, can I ask Ezra, in the financial world, are they looking at new models of home financing? I just remember a long time ago, remember when car loans were only 3 years, then they were 4 years, then they were like 7 years. So are there new innovative ideas coming out of the finance world of how housing is funded?
Well, there certainly are new. I'm not going to say that they're innovative, but there are some things that we can do to, as an industry, to find ways to stretch the payments out over a longer period of time. So things like a 40-year mortgage. I think interestingly enough, Habitat is at the front end nationally in being creative on how down payments are tied in, how they're amortized as part of the value. And again, these are complex topics that a first-time homeowner, they're not going to know, it's not going to be top of mind for them. So how do we open up access to knowledge? How do we create a program for them around that? And many credit unions do this, and STCU has a very well-developed program around first-time home ownership and creating access to information, talking to people about how to stabilize and improve their credit scores, talking about how to use the right resources to find access to the right products, and things like floating rate mortgages where the interest rates start really low and then you can lock them in over time, looking at some of the down payment assistance programs. And the most classic conventional lending products are designed for people that are going to put 20% down, they're going to own their house for 10 or 15 years, they're going to sell it. Well, the conventional classic model isn't what is going to be accessible for people who are looking at access to entry-level or affordable homes. And so I think there's, again, plenty of options for the banking and finance and credit union community to be a source of strength. And STCU has a partnership with Habitat where we look at how we can purchase loans from them and support their ability to lend into the community. I know for a fact, based on work that we've done, that Numerica and STCU and Horizon and Global and BECU want to partner with SNAP and Habitat to create that financing vehicle for individuals. So, our specialty is providing loans. Michelle's specialty is building construction. So if we can support her by providing loans, she's going to have access to build more homes. And so we can do our core competency and help her team focus on their core competency.
Awesome. Thanks, Ezra. Well, and as we kind of close this out, I mean, we've had a lot of discussion about what does it look like to increase home production, while on the back end, how do we make sure that we are helping to steward, best financial behaviors and ensure that not only do individuals and families have access to housing, but how do we ensure that they have access to those stepping stones like homeownership? So my last question is, what do you all want the community to know about affordable homeownership, specifically through Habitat? Why do you think it's vital? How can we get this message out further? And we'll start with you, Betsy.
Michelle, it's not important, it's critical to get the message out. Habitat fills a space that's truly not occupied by anyone else in helping families get into their first home. And so just that opportunity alone and the sweat equity part of it, which helps them educate about home ownership as they're working towards it. And you have measurable outcomes along the way, along with a little hand holding. Because buying your first house is kind of scary. And you go and you sit, and there's just like this stack of papers, and you're kind of like zoned out when you sign. I remember my first time doing that. I was like, oh my God, what did I just do? And getting over the fear of home ownership. Like, I want to own a home, but can I really own one? Do I know what I'm doing? So that role that Habitat is playing is a bridge for many, many folks in our community. And right now, you're the only bridge that's filling that gap. So that's why Habitat's program is so essential, that we continue to partner and support you in your efforts going forward. And again, how government could lean in and help undergird a lot of this work that just needs to happen throughout our community. And home is where the heart is, but the heart really needs a roof over it. So let's make sure that happens. So that's where I would say Habitat's role really is.
Thanks, Betsy. Vange, what do we need to do?
Well, I think you're already doing quite a bit in the area of housing, and I think that if we can help support Habitat in enhancing the mindset that housing is a public good, that it is a necessity, just like food and water is. And so changing that mindset that, having a safe place to live is not a privilege, it's a right. So I think if we can further enhance that mentality, help Habitat continue to carry that message, I think that would be very beneficial in moving the needle forward. I also think that there are positive externalities. So in economics, we have the term externalities, and a positive externality is a spillover effect, right? A positive impact of an action. So providing more housing and making sure that people have a safe place to live creates a host of positive externalities. You're going to have healthier people. They're going to be able to have a place to cook their meals. So you're going to reduce food insecurity. You're also going to reduce youth homelessness, and you're going to improve graduation rates, and you're going to improve academic performance. And so the positive externalities definitely outweigh the cost. I could almost put my money on it, that the benefit that we would get from having more housing will definitely outweigh the cost of emergency rooms visit, medical issues, and mental health, and so forth.
Thank you. And Ezra, what else do we need to be doing?
Well, as I was pondering the thoughts of Betsy and Vange, the one thing that's super clear to me is people want to be successful. They want to do the right thing. People are pretty good at looking out for their own best interest, and they want to improve over time. And so what we really need to do is line up access to knowledge, access to tools, access to financing, access to real estate. And if we line up those things and we point people in the right direction and we guide them towards the path, they're going to be really successful at navigating the path. And we've seen it, in some of the examples that we've talked about today. But if we create a safe space where kids can be comfortable and they can learn, they're going to do a great job of taking that knowledge and improving their lives and going on and having successful careers. Families, if we give them a safe place where the family can thrive, parents are going to do a great job of creating a nurturing environment for their kids. And those kids are going to turn out better and better over the course of time. So really creating that stable foundation for our community is the best thing that we can do to ensure that we're rooting out some of the long-term sources of poverty in our community that are things that create a festering environment that cause so many of the other problems that we're trying to react to. So instead of reacting to all of these symptoms, if we go tackle what the real underlying problems are, our community is going to be much, much stronger over the course of time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ezra. So
Can I say amen to that?
Yes.
Amen to that.
Amen.
Absolutely. Well, this is this has been really wonderful. I not only am so grateful and thankful for each one of you in sharing your expertise, but also sharing your personal stories. And, I think that you all really hit it on the head. I mean, we all want for ourselves to reach our greatest potential, and we want our neighbors in our community to reach their greatest potential. This is a part of our luncheon fundraiser, our Hope Builders fundraiser. And I'm going to ask Ezra to close us out and share why we should help Habitat in raising those dollars to continue our mission.
Great, thanks, Michelle. Well, we all came here with one purpose really today, and I know the conversation has been useful to hear how things are evolving in our community, but we came here with the express purpose to help Habitat finance their ongoing operations. And that means that we need to help Michelle and her team raise more money so that they can support people as they navigate through that process. So when I think about the biggest difference that we can do today, it is by opening up our checkbooks, pulling out our credit cards, and finding the right way where we can increase the long-term sources of funding for Michelle in our community. And every single dollar that we provide today is going to be a big step forward in putting a nail into a roof that goes over the top of somebody's head. And over the course of the past several years, every single dollar that Michelle's team brings in translates into safety and security for people in our community. So my big ask as a closeout for today is that you do reach down and literally grab your wallet, grab your checkbook, grab your credit card and pull it out and write down a number that probably feels a little bit bigger than you want to, but that number is going to be a direct impact on our community, and it's going to help a family come together in a safe environment and help our community become stronger over time by coming together to assist each other. And when I think about the dollars that are translated here, Michelle had talked about 340 families in Spokane. How do we turn that into 3,000 and 10,000 families? And Habitat is very successful at translating each dollar back into the community. And so we think about what the state of Washington and Eastern Washington and our entire country has gone through in the last 12 months, arguably one of the biggest challenges of our lifetime. And stability and safety in a home is one of the things that was the biggest determining factor of being able to keep the virus in check. What are we going to do today to help support Habitat? And that's where I would ask you to reach in there and write down, something that's got 3 zeros or maybe even 4 zeros behind it. I'm going to say take the decimal place out, right? We want like 4 big zeros behind some of those numbers. And the hundreds of thousands of dollars that we're going to raise at this lunch are going to translate into houses in our community, providing safety and security for people over the course of time. So I would just encourage all of us to give. You came here today to give. Please give a big number, and let's continue to find the right ways to support Michelle and Habitat over time.
Thank you so much for that in-depth conversation, Betsy, Dr. Hochheimer, and Ezra. And thank you all for gathering virtually today with Habitat for Humanity. You are standing up to make affordable homeownership a reality for the many families working towards that opportunity. And remember, Banner Bank's $17,000 match. Double your donation when you give today. That is incredible. Thank you so much, Banner Bank. On the screen, there is a Donate Now button. You can click on it and make your first gift, or you can make additional gifts. You can also mail a check to the Habitat office. That's P.O. Box 4130, Spokane, Washington, 99220. Habitat means hope for a better future. By participating and attending today, you are a hope builder. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for donating, and enjoy the rest of your day.